I promise you ain't going to hear much of this because they'll shut them off. I'm going to start a new television ministry called Renegade Ministries. Let's just do it. Somebody write the first check. Let's do it. That's what we're doing with Pastor Rick Wiles. Because ain't nobody wanting to preach the truth. Ain't nobody wanting to tell it like it is. We all trying to get along with each other. But, honey, you can't get along with the mafia. You can't get along with thugs. You can't get along with thieves. You can't get along with rapists. You can't get along with those that want to steal, kill, and destroy. We have become idiotic in our thinking, Brother Mike, that we can raise a pet snake, rattlesnake, and he's going to be our friend forever. There comes a day when that snake realizes the venom that's within him. There comes a time when the python remembers his strength. There comes a time whenever that pygmy realizes that his job and his desire is to kill. But yet, for the sake of nickels and noses and trying to get along with colors and cultures and trying to get along with everybody, we don't talk about the hot button issues. We don't talk about the issues of our lives. And now we find out it's too late. The devil's already set up camp in the home. Oh, I know I'm not going to get a lot of good letters, but I don't really care. Save your ink. You can't spell right anyways. I know people write, I'm mad at you, M-A-D-D. Mad Magazine, or I don't remember something. Some of y'all go, yeah, I remember that. During gender transition, individuals begin to live and identify as a sex consistent with their gender identity and may dress differently, adopt a new name, and use pronouns consistent with their gender identity. Transgender individuals may undergo gender transition at any stage of their lives, and gender transition can happen swiftly over a long duration of time. In other words, they're now teaching the superintendents that the child may go full-blown right away, or it may take him a little while to get up his guts to go from Bobby to Barbie. I remember growing up, I was hiding smoking from my mom. Not a mini skirt. Y'all ain't helping me. I was in there looking for nickels and quarters to buy cigarettes, not looking for Maybelline. Y'all ain't helping me. But see, it all goes back to our culture. It goes back to our parenting that, I just want to be friends with Johnny. I don't want to offend Johnny. Johnny's just trying to discover himself. Honey, take a ruler and smack that hand and say, get out of my bathroom. I know there's a lot of things that have made our children crooked, and I can't fix them in one message and identify them all. But if you take God out of the house and out of the family, hell shows up. That's my answer on that. Let me continue. Compliance with Title IX as a condition of receiving federal funds. Listen to this. As a condition of receiving federal funds, what did I tell you in the beginning of the year? The Holy Spirit told us you will not recognize America as a democracy. Honey, that is not a democracy. At the night, at the darkness of night, this man, these devils in the White House, printed this letter out and sent it under the cover of darkness. Not one congressman voted. Not one congressman approved it. Nobody read it. It was a clandestine effort of an Antichrist system to shove it down our throats. It's unconstitutional. You can't do this. I want you to know that. You can't do this. This is illegal in the United States of America to impose your own sexual preferences on a nation of people who are for, the government is for the people and by the people. We the people. And every superintendent in America now has this in their office. I hope you're getting pissed. It's in the Bible. Go look at it. I say, hell, people get mad. It's in the Bible. It ought to be time somebody just told the truth to you. You ought to be so raving mad. You ought to stand up and say, I had enough of this. This is insanity. That's all right. I'm going to preach this whether you like me or not. I'm still going to do it.
They find all these arguments to be frivolous. My opinion on the matter is, in full disclosure, that I don't think it matters. It doesn't matter if paying taxes or the way that the government collects taxes is unconstitutional. The only thing that matters is that they can throw you in prison at the point of a gun. It doesn't matter whether you're right. It only matters that they have more guns than you do, and they're not afraid to use them. And so they throw people in jail for this sort of thing, which I find to be completely obscene. In other cultures, in other societies, matters of tax are civil matters. Civil, as in civilized societies treat this in a civil way. They go through a court system, and the government has certain powers, over financial assets and bank accounts and so forth. They don't throw people in jail for not paying taxes. But of course, this is what it's come to in the land of the free, where they throw people in jail for not paying taxes, for not filling out forms. It doesn't even matter if you owe taxes. If you don't fill out a form and they can prove that you've willfully not filed paperwork, regardless of whether or not you owe them a dime, they can throw you in jail. I did an interview
in Congress, July 4th, 1776. The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights governments are instituted among men deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such forms as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government, and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time after such dissolutions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial, from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offences, for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighbouring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments, for suspending our own legislators and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections among us, and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince, whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant, is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attention to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our emigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and of consanguinity. We must, therefore, acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them, as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace friends. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and